Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we are talking about anime, which is something I don't talk about much on the channel. I think I've mentioned it briefly in passing a few times, but it's something that in the physical media realm I don't talk about very often, and I know a lot of you watching this right now, if you're new, welcome, hi. And if you're not, you probably notice that I don't necessarily talk about that subject very much, nor does the physical media side talk about it terribly too much. Now, anime, it has a huge grasp on the physical market as well. I know that Crunchyroll puts a lot of things out, and when it comes to the digital side of things, but at the same time, it's not something I'm like super versed in, right? Ever since I was a kid, I watched Dragon Ball Z and Toonami and watched a lot of really great, fantastic shows. For instance, I have in front of me, I have Rurouni Kenshin, which is actually my favorite anime of all time. I would love this to be on Blu-ray someday, but these are my old DVDs. These are hard to get. I really love season 2, but anyway, Kenshin, love that show so much, and these are a few of the DVDs that I still own in my collection. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit today about the physical media side of anime, but then also at the same time kind of talk about some of my interests, right? Earlier this year, I jumped into a new anime that's been going on for quite some time, and also just recently I just got into an anime that I hadn't visited in about a little over 10 years, which is just crazy to me that I've like get sucked back into this. So I want to showcase a little bit of this, but I want to ask you who are watching right now, do you like anime, or do you like anime the films? I would love to know in the comment section down below, what are some of your favorite shows, some of your favorite movies? I would love to know down there. So kind of jumping back into Kenshin, right? Kenshin being my favorite show. I'm just going to bring this one up. So Rurouni Kenshin is one that I grew up watching on Toonami, right? I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, which I'm a huge fan of. I just don't talk about it very much, right? I've seen all of the Dragon Ball shows, from Dragon Ball all the way up to Super and the like, and I follow up with that stuff quite often, but it's been periodic and jumping in and out of my life for quite some time. Now, Kenshin, great example of another show that I love. These have actually been adapted into some live action movies, which are actually fantastic. I think there's 5 of them. I have the first 3, and I did get the last 2, which I still haven't seen yet. But I've been in a mood. I want to get into that side of things. But with Kenshin, it's a show that, you know, this is a really hard show to get. And the physical media side of things, this is the reason I wanted to bring this up. These are things are hard to get, right? And also, anime is expensive as hell, right? So I would highly recommend, if you are starting to be interested in physical media, but also like into anime, or if you like anime and you want to be like, oh, well, how do I get in physical media? I would definitely recommend using something like Crunchyroll, or kind of some, you know, streaming service of some sort, if you really are looking for that. But now from the collector's side of thing, you can get things like this, which are hard to get, you know, and hard to come by. But you know, that's the thing, is there's some strangleholds on some of these types of anime, which is really interesting. And I'd love to know more from the community that knows more about this, who does collect anime. Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to know more about what that looks like, and like what the market looks like in that. I wanted to mention also a few other things from that time period, not just Dragon Ball Z or Rurouni Kenshin. I also wanted to mention Yu Hakusho right here. I actually have the first 4 seasons, which are the only seasons there are of Yu Hakusho, on Blu-ray, and I absolutely adore this show. This is a fantastic one, and I love that there's only 4 of them, right? So you only have to buy 4 of these things. This is like a very compact show. It kind of ends in a way where it could have kept going, but anyway, some of the best anime and experiences ever in my life were coming for stuff like this. Now, other things too is like, you know, there's other things that people like that, you know, where they're maybe the movie side of things, right? So Studio Ghibli is a really fantastic example of things that have crossover into the mainstream. In fact, a lot of anime has crossover into the mainstream, which I think is really fantastic. Now, the one that really like sold me on this is Princess Mononoke, which is actually one of the first Japanese, I guess, anime films that I have watched. Growing up, my next door neighbor actually watched it with me. I think when I was maybe around 11, he got like a bootleg copy of this, and was able to get this, and we were able to watch it together, which was just absolute blast. And I just remember being terrified of a lot of what I was seeing, because this is actually one of the films that is a little bit more adult for the Studio Ghibli films. And Miyazaki did a really fantastic job with this. But also another one that's highly important. In fact, talking about boutique labels, I would love to see this one day in the Criterion collection or some kind of other boutique label. But Grave of the Fireflies is another great example. A phenomenal animated film and anime, and it showcases something that really happened in real world and like in real world events that happened that really transcends the medium itself. And this is a highly great recommendation if you want to pick this up on physical media. These are two things that I would pick up. Now, kind of going all over the place here with this because I really didn't know how I wanted to showcase and share my recent development of what I've been watching. Those things I showed you, I watched a lot of those when I was much younger, right? I still have them to this day. I rewatch some of these things here and there because I know there's a lot of anime out there that a lot of people are watching that I just don't watch myself because there's too much. It's just like the same with movies, right? There's too many movies. But some of the things that I just recently got into that a lot of people have been into for a long time, as basic as this is, and these next things I'm going to talk about are pretty basic, but at the same time, I fell in love with it again. But the first one I want to talk about is Attack on Titan. Now, this is a show that I kind of just turned my nose at for a long time because I was annoyed by how many people were talking about it for the most part. And so I gave it some air. It's finally, I think it's got one more season left, final season, part 3 or whatever. But I finally watched it, and I really loved this show. And I was very surprised. I watched it earlier this year, and it just kind of blew me away, kind of threw me back into the time where I was watching these older animes that I was talking about on Toonami. And it really does capture something that's very interesting to think about, where like wherever you are in life, you can go back to something that you enjoyed, or you can watch something new that kind of reminds you of that time. And that's exactly what Attack on Titan did for me, but in a much more adult sense, because this is a very violent show outside of the things that I showed you earlier. But yeah, I really love this show. So this actually leads me to the show that I'm currently watching that I hadn't seen in about a decade, which is crazy. And that show I want to talk about is Bleach, which is probably one of the more basic shows of anime. It's like definitely one of the tent poles. It's like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach and Dragon Ball Z are probably like the biggest shonen like animes of all time. And Bleach is a great example of that. But I don't know what it was. It's really funny because there's a new show that Bleach came out with, Thousand Year War, I believe was what it's called. Do not quote me. I'm not there yet. But I used to watch this over a decade ago, right? I watched Bleach back in the day. This is right when I was in smack dab in watching all sorts of anime. This was like in the middle of Full Metal Alchemist. I was watching Code Geass, these other things, and I was also watching Bleach and things like that. So I was heavily into things like this, but it took me a while, and eventually, oddly enough, well timed, but this new show, like I was saying earlier with the new season of Bleach, it started happening, but I didn't actually know that until I recently watched something on YouTube where it just got a recommendation for me. And in that feed, I just watched an episode of something that just reminded me of the old times when I used to watch Bleach. And then it just struck a chord with me, and I'm like, I want to watch this show. And like I said, I had no idea that the new show was coming out. So with that being said, and I get overindulgent, I picked up the mini volumes of this as they come out. Right here, season 3, which was a hard one to get for a second. Season 4, I have the other seasons over there. So I picked up all these Bleach titles, right, on physical media. Now, I want to get back to when I was talking about Yu Yu Hakusho and also Rurouni Kenshin. Now, the physical media side of things is now Funimation and this Viz Media is where Bleach comes from, but Funimation has a really good, I guess, a good grasp of the market where they kind of stretch these things out. Dragon Ball is a great example of this as well, where it's almost like they split it up into like making you spend more money, right? And that's exactly what I'm doing with this. Is there are 13 volumes of this, which it's a big show. There's over like 360 episodes, which makes sense. So like having 27 episodes roughly on each disc for around $30 to $40. Not so bad, but I'd love to get like some kind of big thing of it. Where I'm going in circles here is I kind of want to, know a little bit more about this space and like why a lot of these things are so expensive. Things like big shows like this. So with Bleach, that's what I've been, watching lately. It's something that I've revisited, something that I used to adore, and I'm watching it with fresher eyes, right? And I think that's something that I wanted to kind of showcase and highlight in this video, is just talking about revisiting something from your past. And I kind of want to know, what are some things that you've revisited in your past recently? Maybe you've had a phase of something where you watched this years ago, but then you watch it again, like a TV show or an anime or a movie. It doesn't matter what it is, but I'm kind of curious, like what are some things that you remember watching when you were younger, and then coming back, almost like a decade later and saying like, okay, these are fresh eyes. Like, do I like it more now? Do I dislike it more because I'm a grown up, right? Or time has passed and your taste changes. So I would love to know in the comment section down below, something like that. So I just wanted to make a video showcasing that I'm watching Bleach, right? And I'm having a great time with it. And I'm having a fun time with it going through this entire show because it's going to be crazy. But that being said, I would love to know all that down in the comment section down below. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's different from what I normally do, and so I wanted to showcase that. But anyway, give it a like, comment, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.